Hi, guys. Welcome to the second half of Perspective, Week 7, Perspective. For this assignment, you're going to do one of my favorite lessons of the entire year, the Great Egg Drop. It's one of my favorite ones. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. It's really creative. I think you'll have a good time. It is a graded assignment. You can see it's got the triangle on it. So for your Wednesday or Thursday, it depends on which day you have, assignment, it's got the triangle, it's for a grade. Make sure you're putting your best effort. You'll probably have three things attached to this: the slideshow, the Google Doc, and a video. I haven't made that video yet, so it doesn't show up for me. But the slideshow is kind of the directions, and then the Google Doc is what you're actually going to do. The video is going to be an important part too, though. So if you go to Perspective Egg Drop, you got the slideshow here. You're going to watch an event called the Great Egg Drop. That's that video. It's a video of short version. It's a video of an egg dropping on the floor. There you go. That's it. And when you watch this, this is all about perspective. We're thinking about how people see things in the world, how different characters see things different ways. The Three Little Pigs is usually told pretty much from the pig's point of view. But what if we told the story from the wolf's point of view? Things would be a little different. The wolf's perspective would be different. Another example, if we watched the Star Wars movies again, but we saw Darth Vader's perspective on the events in Star Wars, probably be a little different. So, continuing on here, you're going to watch the video of the Great Egg Drop. If you're part of a live class, you're just going to watch me drop an egg on the live class. But if you're watching this video, you're probably going to watch the video of the Great Egg Drop. And as you watch, you're going to think about a specific character's perspective. How would they see what's going on? And when you watch, after you watch, I should say, you are going to narrate a story as if you were that character. So here are the characters you can choose from. I'm going to drop an egg on the floor. You're going to watch a video of me dropping an egg on the floor. And you can tell the story of what happened from my point of view if you want to. From my perspective, I should say. You can tell the story from a student's perspective. What would a student think and feel and see in all this? You can tell the story from the custodian's point of view. Now, there might not be a custodian in the video, but they're probably going to have to deal with things after the video is over, and you could tell their story. This is a good one to challenge yourself with if you want. You could tell a story of the egg that gets dropped from their perspective. You can also tell a story of another egg in the carton. And I actually don't have a carton. I have a glass bowl. Long story. But anyway, there's 3 eggs in here, and only one of them is going to get dropped. So you could tell the story from the perspective of one of the other eggs. You're going to watch that video, and then when you're finished watching the video, you are going to tell a story. You're going to narrate a story, and you're going to narrate that story with a beginning, middle, and end, with sensory details so we can really feel like we are there. And you're going to narrate from first-person point of view. So you are going to pretend you are that character when you write. Let me give you an example real quick. And actually, what might be helpful right now is if you watch that video of the egg drop and then come back and see what to do later. So here's the example. I wrote this from the principal's perspective. Now, the principal is not a character you can choose, and I did that intentionally because I didn't want to steal any of your ideas. So this would be an example from a character that is not one of your options. And notice it says I, because we're writing in first-person point of view. I'm pretending to be the principal. I was walking the halls when I heard kids in Mr. Farrell's room chanting, "Higher, higher!" I felt something must be amiss, so I stepped in to investigate. There was Mr. Farrell standing on a chair. His arm was aloft, holding a shining white egg. The kids' piercing screams were deafening. Why would he allow this, I thought, when all of a sudden, Mr. Farrell's clenching fingers let go. As the egg hit the floor with a sickening crack, I said, "Mr. Farrell, what seems to be going on?" "Oh, Mr. Mounce," he squeaked, snapping his head at the sound of his boss's voice. How nice of you to join us." I just shook my head and walked out. So we have a beginning where Mr. Mounce is hearing the things that are happening. We have a middle where the egg drop actually happens. And we have an end where he shook his head and walked out. This is a very short example. Yours is probably going to be longer than this. But you'll notice we have sensory details, a shining white egg, clenching fingers, a sickening crack, and we have first person point of view. I said, I shook my head. This is from Mr. Mounce's perspective, and it has all these things we want in a good narrative. The next slide is your rubric. It tells you how you're going to be graded. So if it's first person point of view and you're telling it from the right perspective, the character you chose, 4 points. Sensory details, 4 points. This one's kind of a tricky one. It's 4 points for having your characters do stuff. Make your characters have some sort of action. Have dialogue where your characters talk. I have this. Mr. Farrell, what seems to be going on? Oh, Mr. Mounce, how nice of you to join us. Let your characters say things with dialogue. And then finally, thoughts and feelings. You got to have your characters think things and feel things. Mr. Mounce says, I felt there must be something amiss, so I stepped in to investigate. We know he thinks there's something wrong here. So that's your first part of your grading rubric. And then also SWAG sentences. We haven't really talked about this much, but SWAG stands for starts with a capital letter. You know sentences have to start with a capital letter. Written neatly, that should be really easy because you're typing. But what I'm going to count that for, at least for my class, is you can use spell check. If you go to tools, spelling, go to spell check, you can do it that way. You should also have underline errors checked because then it will tell you if something is wrong or if it thinks that something is wrong. So if you have that checked, you need to fix those errors that it tells you. A space between each word and give punctuation at the end. If you do those things, you'll get 4 more points. So these other slides are just if somebody happens to share. That's more for during class. These are ways you can celebrate. So that's not really the important part. The important part is your narrative that you're going to write. Where am I going to write this, Mr. Farrell? That's what the doc is for. We don't need that right now. Go away. There we go. You're going to highlight what character you choose. So if you want to be the custodian, you're going to select that text and you're going to highlight custodian. That's the one I'm going to do. And then below that, you are going to write your narrative. Now, keep in mind, this looks very intimidating because there's a blank page, but you have an example on the slideshow of kind of what we're looking for. So use that as an example, but you can't copy this because this is from the principal's perspective. And the principal is not one of your options up here. So choose which one you want to do and write your narrative. Tell a fun story, tell a creative story. We want to make this as interesting as possible. These are a lot of fun to read. They're a lot of fun to write. So do your very best with it. And can't wait to read what you write. Take care.